What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. I told you that after last night's breaking news of our actions in Iran, I told you that if I had anything of significance, that I would get back on here and talk about it. So this morning, we have had the press briefer from the Pentagon by Pete Hegseth, our U.S. Secretary of Defense, and Dan Kane, who is the chairman of the Chief of Staffs for the Air Force. Pete Hegseth pretty much got out there and did the whole Ask His version, kind of as part of the speech, part of the presser. And then Dan Kane came on and basically laid out the details of the operation. I mean, as much details as they were willing to give it anyways. So what we know so far, as of last night, we didn't know much. We knew that 3 nuclear facilities had been struck. We had a kind of unofficial release from Sean Hannity, where he claimed that he spoke to Trump, and that there were 6 bombs dropped on a significant facility, and then 30 Tomahawk missiles shot from Marines, submarines like 400 miles away or whatever. So I was interested to see whether or not, how accurate he was. And like I said, he claimed that he got his information straight from the president. It was in the ballpark, but not exactly accurate. So what we were told by Dan Kane was that we had an operation of B-2 bombers that left from continental U.S. According to Hegseth, it was from Missouri. As he mentioned Missouri, like after. We had a decoy version that went, I think, more towards like Europe or something. And then the other flight formation that went for the attack went more south and towards Iran. It was clearly well planned out, which they actually stated had been planned for weeks, or working out the details for weeks, which means to say that this has been planned for a while. And to me, sounds like diplomacy was never a part of the plan. It was all, like we said, was used as a shield for this operation. There were 7 B-2 bombers in formation that went towards Iran. According to Dan Kane, 14. He didn't get specific about how many per site, but 14 of our 30,000-pound bombs, bunker busters, that are these are non-nuclear, but the largest in the world. 14 of them struck the Fordo and Natanz sites. Now, how many hit which? They didn't go specific. I would assume that Fordo took the most. If it's 14 of them, 2 per B-2, I'm assuming probably the effectiveness needed to hit Fordo is probably, or according to by that figure, maybe 9 to 10 of them, I would assume. I have no clue. And then the rest hit Natanz. I mean, it could be 7 and 7, but it doesn't really make sense because Natanz wasn't as covered and underground as Fordo. But like I said, they didn't go into detail. 14 hit the 2 sites. And the other, he did not state 30 Tomahawks, but he just stated over 2 dozen. Were shot from one of our submarines that hit the Esfahan. I said that wrong last night. The Esfahan facility. And they said that there was success. they were very adamant in stating that this was a success that was unparalleled. It's the largest operation in the U.S. history. The second largest, like the second longest flight pattern and attack by RB 2 bombers since 9/11. Um, they were very, you know, uh, proud of this operation. Here's the thing. It's early. We really don't know the damage that was done. I mean, clearly, I'm sure there was damage done. But the biggest issue is that they have no way of of determining whether or not we actually did anything to stop what they said that the idea was to stop their nuclear plan, their nuclear like activity. Because in war times, often nuclear sites and stuff are shut down. They nuclear material that may be found unsafe is oftentimes moved somewhere. So there's a very good chance that any like enriched uranium that was at any of these sites potentially. I think the biggest, uh, the location that they thought probably held the uranium more than likely was the Esfahan site, but I mean, there was uh, no way of knowing where they actually had it, like currently, or within this span of time that attacks have been happening. But more than likely, there's a good chance that they've moved it somewhere, probably divided it up into multiple locations that would be locations nobody would know. Would not be sites that anybody would have sort of an intelligence on. Very, very likely. So we don't even know whether or not the attacks may have damaged the facilities, but they still very likely have enriched uranium somewhere. Now we don't know where it is. Very, very likely. Now, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it really was there. Maybe they haven't moved it, but very likely that they have. So it's not to say that this has actually done anything really, maybe set them back a little bit, but this is going to push them even further, more than likely, to have it enriched, to get a nuclear weapon that they were not actually attempting to do by our own intelligence. And when even questioned, when Hexeth was even questioned about the fact that, like, what reasoning could they possibly lay out when our own intelligence stated that they were not. What recently has come up that explained having this operation performed, and he didn't really didn't have an answer. He completely just walked around it. The president made a decisive decision. He looked at all the information, all the intelligence, and we had concluded that there was a concern, and so we acted. So basically, no, there wasn't any intelligence. Our funders in Israel, for Israel, asked us to do this, and we did it. That's the justification. Um, There was something else I was going to say. Um, okay, apologize. I had to pause for a second because I completely lost train of thought. Um, when asked about congressional approval, uh, Hexeth stated that Congress was addressed or told of the actions. He says immediately after the planes were on, that were returning. So there was no previous, according to him, there was no previous uh, talks or discussion to Congress about the actions. As a matter of fact, Kane was even asked if resources in the region, like, troops and assets that we have in the region, if they were debriefed beforehand about the attack, and he said that they were not, were completely unknown of it. This was only a few people knew, basically. Only those in the plans of the operation knew. Now, I think there's some reports floating around that a number of Republican congressmen knew about it beforehand. I don't know, but according to Hexeth, Congress was told after the fact. So, but then again, and he stated that was to comply with the Wars Act. But then again, you have to have, like, in order for my understanding, in order for us to carry out an attack like this without congressional approval, would be that we would have had some sort of actual, like, attack on us, like we have had troops, personnel, or something, like, aggressed upon by somebody. But that has not happened. And so therefore, in a retaliatory measure, we could perform something like this because it would be an imminent emergency or an imminent thing. But there was no justification for that in this instance. This was not imminent. This was not something that was like a danger to any U.S. personnel, technically, because there was no evidence. Our own intelligence stated that there was no nuclear weapons. I mean, they have literally, in this instance, okay, they have literally just swapped out Iraq for Iran and stopped out weapons of mass destruction with nuclear weapons. We are repeating the same shit that we did in Iraq. We talked about this the other day. The same people that brought us Iraq brought us Iran now. We are we're in very dangerous territory right now. I don't think there has still yet been a like message from the supreme leader of Iran or anything like that. There was a press or like a announcement from their finance minister stating and requesting for an immediate security council to be held at the UN to discuss the attack and that it was, against international law, and to condemn the actions. I saw some sort of report too that he has stated that he will have an immediate meeting um, with Putin. Not sure that's going to be good. We have roughly around 40,000 troops and personnel in the region. And right now, they are all in harm's way. Like, you know, more than they, are already, like, just being over there. But now, like, intensely in harm's way. This from the man who claimed that he was not going to start any new wars, that he was going to end wars. This from the man who claimed that Obama was weak, that he was a weak president, and that he was going to bomb Iran because he did not have the ability to make a deal. That was out of Trump's mouth over 10 years ago. So by his own logic, Trump himself is a weak president. Just pointing it out. When we ever get any kind of more news, if anything else comes out that we need to discuss or talk about, I'll bring it to you. And I guess until then, everybody just hold your butts. Because we're in for a wild ride here. Thank you. Peace. ClearTalk. Later.